Okay, so let's talk about video game music and what the difference is between video game music and film music. Let's begin with the essential components of a score. So, a loop is a piece of music that is meant to be looped over and over and over. It needs to be contained within itself the ability to start and stop without sounding like a loop that's starting and stopping. So when you're designing something to loop, you want to make sure that there isn't a lot of reverb in the song that might get cut off at the end of the loop. You might want to shape your loop so if it starts small, it also ends small, so that when it loops back, the small ending fades really or cross loops really well with the small beginning. So those are things to keep in mind. If you're not sure, put your composition on loop in GarageBand, play it over a few times, and see if you find it distracting when it loops. Transition is a musical gesture designed to connect two larger pieces of music. This is something we do quite a bit in film, not as much in video games because we have tags and stingers to do that. So a tag is a composition designed to function as a closing gesture. So usually it's like you got killed or you beat the boss. And so what you do is you write a little tag loop that gets programmed to just like interrupt the theme music in the background when the character dies or when you die. And it just goes right in, cuts it off, and ends that section of music. Whereas a stinger is more like something that could be placed into the composition at any time when something happens to a character. So if you think of like a character powering up. So in Mario Brothers, classic when you get a mushroom and you hear that kind of sound, that is a stinger. And I'm going to show you an example of a tag and a stinger in a game that I play. Now, the difference between film and video, there's five main differences that I want to talk about. So the difference between film and video games is film music is passive. So the watching is passive. You sit there, you watch it, it plays through from beginning to end, from zero to the end of the film. Whereas video game music is interactive in that it changes constantly as you're playing. What you do in the game will change the music soundtrack in the background because as you go to different levels, it'll go to different themes. And as you do different things in the games, you'll get different stingers and whatnot that will happen. So it's a more active type of design for your music. You have to keep that in mind, that things need to be able to, your stingers need to kind of fit on top of your background music for the sections that they're designed for and that sort of thing. So like I was saying, film, the design is linear, beginning, middle, end. And in video game music, it's completely non-linear. So multiple outcomes are possible, and there's changing story arcs. And there's also usually a lot more pieces of music you have to write for a game because there's going to be so many different levels and things. So linear versus non-linear. A film soundtrack might be an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. And within that hour and a half, maybe you're making 45 minutes of music. And then some themes might even be used in different parts of the film. Whereas video game music, you might have to create music that will last for 5 or 10 hours in a game, depending on how long a person plays for and how good they are. So this is where looping, this is where theme and variations comes in. Imagine you have one little 30-second piece of music and it's playing for 5 hours. It's actually going to be a real deterrent to the person playing the game. So this is where creating multiple tracks in a vertical design and then spreading them out using theme and variations to create one theme that can be expressed in 10 different ways all of those different expressions can be turned into loops that can be lined up in different ways to make the music feel like it's changing, even though it's the same thing. As far as watch time, so, most people will watch a movie a couple times, unless you're my nephews, in which case you'll watch Pirates of the Caribbean like every day of your lives. But in general, most people don't watch a movie more than 2 or 3 times. Whereas, a video game, you could be watching and playing it for years and years. And then, so, when, the amount that you might have to make. So here it says approximately 1 hour of composed music. I would say maybe more like 45 minutes to an hour. And for a video game, depending on what it is, even if it's like one of these online virtual reality games, you might be making four or more hours of composed music. It could be a ton of work. So again, make those themes, stretch them out for as long as you can. All right, so those are the 2 main differences. But essentially, if you were to put it into a nutshell, the difference between film and video games, one is linear, one is nonlinear. And with each of those comes a whole bunch of variables. Now, I want to show you an example of a game that I play on my phone all the time. I'm completely addicted to it. It's called Empires and Puzzles, and I've been playing for a couple of years, and I'm on a really good team. And it shows a lot of the stuff that we're looking for in these assignments. So you have been asked, I'm just going to read right from what I've written down here for the assignment. 2 different 8-bar compositions that are different yet complementary. So 2 different themes. This is something we've been doing a lot in this course, an A theme and a B theme. We're also going to create something called a tag. And a tag is like a little transition loop that either ends a scene and it's just thrown right on top of a theme when a character dies, or maybe it's the character wins or something like that. So a win or a death. Let's just call it a win or a death loop. And we call those tags. And then a stinger is a sound effect or a gesture where in a game where there's a power-up, a bonus level, a boss event, or something like that. So you will call it, your name power up. So with these sound files that you're going to make for me, make sure that they're very clearly marked. So theme A, theme B, tag, and stinger. And then these are all going to go into a folder with the GarageBand session where you made them all in it. And then all of that will get zipped and uploaded to Moodle. Okay? So let me show you some examples. So let's take a look at my example game. So if we start here at the beginning, you can see this is the screen loading up. And this is the first theme. So this is kind of like the main theme of the song when you just go into the world to navigate through. And now you can hear it goes into a variation of the first theme. It's all the same chords and all the same song, just with different instruments. There's some flute, some strings. And now we go into the fight theme. So this is the theme B. So you can hear, because it's a battle, it's got kind of a chun cha 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 chun cha chun kind of sound to it, like a battle theme. With brass. Brass is often used to fighting. And then dun-dun-dum. You could hear, we will call that our tag. Dun dun dun. So that's a little tag that gets thrown on right as the game ends. Okay, now let's go into raids. So this is the raids theme. And what you're going to hear is, so this is a third theme. There's many themes in the song, but at the end of this raid, you're going to hear that my character actually dies. And so you're going to hear sort of a death tag. So it's just a short little gesture. So first a bong on a tubular bell, and then dun 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 dun. And what that just says is you have died because you suck. Okay, so that's another example of a tag. So here's a great example of a stinger. So you'll see that there's some sound effects as this character goes through a power up, and then there's a little bit of a stinger sound that shows that the character has powered up. So check this out. Summer. No. And you can hear, I didn't realize the microphone was on the phone when I was making this video, so you hear me talking to my dog, which is something that happens all the time. So there you go. So there is two different themes for two different levels. We have a tag for either a win or a death, and then we have a stinger for a power-up. So your stingers can be different sorts of things, but I might need an explanation of what your stinger is, if I'm not sure. But essentially you're creating like a little suite of pieces of music that all kind of feel like they're part of the same game. So, what I'm not looking for is just like you grab a loop and drag it in and that's your stinger. I want you to actually create something for me. So this assignment is not about just using loops. It's about trying to use the skills you've learned in this class. So chord progressions, theme and variation, the fundamentals of music, so rhythm, bass, and solo, stretching a theme out. And when you're making your stingers, I want to see if you can make those with the keyboard. You can actually make drum sounds using the drum kits in GarageBand, and it spreads all the instruments out on the keyboard, and then you can play the instrument sounds on the keyboard. So this is an assignment where you're not necessarily just relying on loops. I'm going to be looking to see if you're crafting these sounds, especially because for a lot of you, this will be a bonus assignment. So you're going to have to work for those bonus marks. All right, so I hope you enjoy this assignment, and good luck. Have fun.